Hey, and welcome to the second part of the Leo Baker podcast chat. We're just going to crack straight into it and pick up where we left off. So hang in, enjoy, and I'll chat to you guys at the end. Peace. Are you excited about this year's World Surf Tour with the surfing and what's going on with because speaking a lot about the female athletes recently, just previously, and this year being the first year that females and males are being paid the same amount. I think I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's pretty timely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome. I mean, it's funny, like, I think I follow more female surfers on Instagram than I follow male surfers, and that's not a tits and ass thing at all. It's because they're awesome surfers.
They're amazing,
and that's not a cop out caveat. It's because they're amazing. They're unreal. And I just love their style. Like, there's some longboarders who they just got the most graceful, unreal style, and it's just a pleasure to watch them surf. And through to Steph Gilmore, she's got the most amazing flowing style. It's just
she's powerful too.
Yeah,
she's so powerful.
And it's just I love it. It's I love watching them surf. I love the fact that there's more women in the surf nowadays.
30% they say in Australia.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
There's 2 million. There's a stat I think I read recently. There's roughly 2 million surfers in Australia. Yeah, 2 to 2.5, and 30% are women.
It makes the surf better though, because when I was younger, you go out surfing, it was just a sausage fest out there of macho knob ends, and it's just. It's different. The water is different. It's not like that anymore. And
it's a good vibe now, isn't there?
Yeah. No, it's good.
My partner, she's an amazing surfer. She's a better surfer than I'll ever be, that's for sure. I love it. I like that. I like that she's so much better than me as well. It's I love just sitting there in the water, just bobbing up and down, and just watching her catch a wave, and just and she's goofy too. Mm-hmm. So we're always in right. And there's something about watching a goofy person, female or male, going on their backhand down a wave. It looks really good, but she loves it, and she's good, and I enjoy watching her surf because she's good. Yeah, and
I'm terrible on my backhand.
Are you?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the
on the right breaks
or coast of right-handers. I'm spoiled. They're all forehand breaks.
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, I went to Rio Nexpro in Mexico a few years ago, and just kind of made a fool of myself surfing this big left-hander, just eating shit again and again and again. And I'm like, oh, geez, I'm really not as good as I thought I was. Not that I think I'm very good.
Is there any breaks that you'd love to check out?
Oh, of course.
In the world?
I think sort of travel and surf go hand in hand. But a really big thing is I really don't deal well with crowds. The whole experience of having to jostle for waves and hassle for waves is just really changes the whole experience. I just like to, really relax and just, find my own position and just, crowded surf when there's, a lot of people or localism and all that stuff. It just, you sort of go into a bit of a different headspace when you're out there surfing. So if I could have the luxury of going somewhere that wasn't like that, then that would be great. So, there's nowhere immediately itching, but there's some amazing. I mean, I'd love to one day I would love to surf Jeffreys Bay in South Africa.
We were just talking about that the other day. Actually,
when it's not too big, and there's not too many sharks.
Good luck. Good luck on that day.
Yeah.
I think that's the part of the. There's three things you got to look out for at J Bay. One is rocks, 2 is sharks, and three is locals. But I think
easy.
Yeah, God, I think that's everywhere though. I think South Australia, I'd love to go surfing in Western Australia, but I think the sharks are pretty prevalent there as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of a breeding ground for them, and J Bay's no different. And I've got to be honest though, like in terms of locals, because I've like just come back to surfing. Like I had a number of years off, had a really bad, and it's like when I went back I started surfing when I was 18. I grew up in the country in New Zealand, in the mountains, as far away from the surf as you can get in New Zealand, and the South Island anyway. And then when I got to Australia, I took up surfing, chasing a girl actually who was a surfer. And so I pretended to be a good surfer when I'd never surfed a day in my life.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Really? And I sucked. I sucked at surfing, and I still do. I'm still not a very good surfer, but that was a complete fake it, and so that one didn't go so well. But I was hooked on surfing from there on. You know, like the challenge, the water, the inconsistency. You know, the lack of control that you actually have over when you can and cannot go surfing, as well as the elemental factor I love.
Yeah.
And so I've always loved surfing. And then when I went back to New Zealand to study in my early 20s, I took my surfboard that I bought here, which was way too small for me. And there's an amazing break that I have no problem telling people about. It's called Taylor's Mistake in the South Island. You'll have to find it. It's amazing. It's probably one of my favourite breaks in the world. There's 3 breaks on it, and in the wave, in the bay. Sorry, and when I was surfing at Taylor's, there might have been 3 people in the water to 6. Sometimes none. Sometimes you paddle up by yourself, like 4-foot closeouts. You're paddling out anyway.
Yeah.
And there was this one day, an early morning surf that I went for, and I got back in. I just got absolutely eaten alive. Actually, it was way too big, and I just went out and just got pounded. It was way too big for my skill level, and then sort of got dragged back into the water by some sort of will to live. I'm not quite sure where it came from. And then put my board up against the car, and there's like a shower block. Went in there to the shower block, and it was just me in the water, empty car park. Come back out, strip off the wetsuit, go to grab the board, put it back in the bag, no board. And looking around the car park for the car, there's no other cars, no other people.
Hang on, are you nude at this stage?
No, man, I had a towel.
Sorry.
I always surf with a towel.
You're like, I had a shower, stripped all the wetsuit, and came out of the car park, no one around. Sorry.
Do you take a towel? Or do you
yeah. I thought you were saying there's no one around, so you're butt naked, and someone steals your car with all your shit. And I'm like, man, that sucks.
The cathedral car park, it's always like butt naked. Now I know.
Oh, no, it's nasty. I drive past that all the time. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to look at that.
That's the one thing you got to deal with. Actually, there's 4 things with surfing you got to deal with. It's like, it's rocks, it's sharks, it's locals, and it's butt cracks.
Oh, it's so nasty.
That's the things you have to put up with. But yeah, and then my surfboard got pinched. Yeah,
really.
So it's some phantom Jack Flash dude that sort of.
That's dodgy ads.
Yeah, so I didn't surf for a long time after that, and mainly because I was a student, couldn't afford a board, didn't have any other friends that surfed.
But it was kind of a double whammy. You just kind of got poleaxed out there, and you came back in with your tail between your legs a little bit, and then the board got nicked. So you were kind of like maybe.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like it was maybe this isn't something for me.
Was it?
That's a good question. I don't know. I struggled for a long time. Like I felt like I was a really shit surfer. Like there was only a handful of times that I remember like really like catching a wave on that board. And
sounds like it was just the wrong board.
It was totally the wrong board.
Getting nicked is probably the best thing for you.
It totally was, yeah. It was this horrible 90s rip curl fixed fin thruster pencil sort of like Roman spare kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like made for just direct speed. And here's this scrawny kid that's never surfed a day in his life who should have had a soft top to start with or a Mal. You know, that is the biggest advice I think I have for people is if you want to start surfing, do not start on a short board, start on a long board. Even do those surf like where you go to like Torquay or whatever and you do those 2-hour surf, like learn just just do something. Just do not do what I did.
I was riding boards that were too short for me for a long time, and I just wasn't having fun on them. I mean,
No,
I think
it's such a struggle.
I mean, here you are saying, you know, you don't think you're a very good surfer. It doesn't really matter. It's just like as long as you're having fun, you know. It's like
I struggled sitting on it. I used to like I was like trying to figure out how everyone was like sitting on their boards, and I'm like, it was like, and I had no one that was the problem. I think I just had no friends that I went surfing with.
Yeah.
And so I would like try to figure out how people sit on their boards out in the water. And what I did was I used to wrap sort of sit up and sort of back on the board, so the nose would come straight out of the water, like a feather straight up. And then I'd wrap my feet around the fins and then lock my feet into the fins, and that's how I stabled myself on the board.
Right.
So sort of sitting on the board and balancing, I would just like lock into this board for dear life. It was horrible, yeah. I look back on it with like the greatest nostalgia and embarrassment as well. But I learnt a lot. I learnt a lot in those thrashing years of navigating whitewater and embarrassment and pretending to be better than what I was as well, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you learn from that. I think you're probably going about it all wrong, really. It's just good to go out there and do your own thing and have fun. You know, it's not about like having expectation of how you need to surf. You know, like I'm not the greatest surfer, but I just make sure I have fun. And once I realised that I kind of wanted to sort of, if I found myself getting frustrated in the surf, I've only recently kind of learned this, so I just need to kind of like just check myself and just go, hey, look, you're in the surf. You know, just like catch a wave, enjoy yourself. And I only recently came to the realisation that like why I love surfing so much is because it's one of the few things, probably one of the only things I do where I am truly present in the moment. And that is such a mental release and meditative process. Yeah. It's such an amazing mood resetter. You know, it's the closest thing to a kind of religious experience that I have in my life.
I completely agree. That is for me the vice that surfing serves for me is like my mental check moments, or especially if I've got a lot going on from day to day. There's nothing more amazing than just sitting in the water, and just allows you to not think about everything else, everything exterior to what's in your life that you need to think about, just because you have to be focused in then and there, and it's.
Yeah, it's actually, they say it's impossible to think of anything else whilst actually riding a wave. You can't think of anything else other than what you're doing. So it forces you to be in the moment. And I think these days of, you know, this day and age of busy, crazy stuff in your face all the time, you're always kind of projecting to the future where you need to be, what you need to be doing, bills you need to pay, you know, all these day-to-day stresses. And it's just nice to have that reset where you're just like enjoying what you're doing in that moment. And it's a beautiful thing, you know? Yeah,
it is. It is an amazing thing. I remember there was a moment like when I got back to surfing there was a group of friends, there's about 5 or 6 of us that went down to the Wilson's prom for a winter camp where I slept in my hammock. And I hadn't been back in the water in, a long time, like 8 years, 7 years. And one of my best mates brought down a couple of boards and then a spare board that I could jump onto as well. And him and I paddled out at sunset with a couple of Snickers bars wrapped into the wetsuit, and just sort of sat out there and just enjoyed the sunset and just enjoyed just being just us two out there in the water, you know. And we didn't really talk, just ate a Snickers, and then
hey Snickers, this podcast is looking for promotions. If you want to get behind it, you know, you heard it here first.
I could have said chocolate bar, confectionery. I could have said anything.
No, it was Snickers. Yeah. It was Snickers, and he'll take our sponsorship.
It's the velvety nougat, the peanuts, the chocolate, the caramel.
Delicious with the sunset. So romantic.
It was amazing. And then we caught a party wave. And it was the first time I'd jumped up on a board in a long time. And just the ease of getting up onto a mal. And then, of course, the connection with my mate as well. And then the connection, reconnecting with the ocean and the wave and the board, and just... it allowed me, in a way, to reconnect with myself. Do you know what I mean? And that's right. That's something that I really love, and that's something that's actually quite deeply a part of me. And I think surfing does that. You either love it or you just don't surf.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're not catching waves, you tend to get you can get a bit frustrated or lose the love.
Sure, yeah.
And that's what I was saying before. I had a couple of boards that were just the wrong boards for me. They were too small, too sort of high performance. And if your fitness wanes in between surfing, and then you go out, I mean, which it does, let's face it, you know, you get stuck in the city for a week or two, and then you kind of get back out there and you're not as, you know, lively and as fit as you could be. And and it just is that little bit harder. And then if you're not getting onto the waves, and you know you do, and then you're kind of exhausted and you eat it, and you know it's sort of, it can be frustrating. So I took this like massive step back, and I thought I just need to make sure I'm having fun out here, and that's where I got the longboard. And you know you can catch anything on that, and it's a performance longboard, so it can really fly and really sail along on bigger waves if you want to, but it can also ride like you know tiny 1 foot pass if you want to. and I was just getting lots of waves, and I was just like having fun, and I was like, cool, okay, so now I want to like you know, and then I was
scaling down from there.
Yeah, and then I was getting into other boards, and I got the mid-length going on, and then now I'm kind of like back down to the short board sort of area, but it's but I'm making boards that are wider and thicker and got more volume. There's the it V word with boards these days.
Volume.
Yeah.
Just not the length anymore, is it? It's how many litres it is.
Yeah, just to support that inner fat man.
I think that's age, man. That's good time. It's beefing up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the secret to happiness, really, when it comes to
beefing up.
Yeah, get a bigger board that can just like easy to paddle, easy to catch waves, and then you catch waves and you have fun. You have a good time.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, I'm not about like I think tubing would be amazing, but it's for me. It's the catching. Like the other day we went out to Impossos. It was a pretty heavy offshore, northerly wind, and there's something really amazing about riding a wave, coming down the face of the wave, and just the wind is like picking up the sea spray and it's like smacking you in the face. And I think that's maybe like you feel like a dog that's hanging its head out the window down a freeway. You know what I mean?
Tongue out.
You're like, this is incredible. And I don't know. And that for me is like what they talk about at J Bay. Like they have the roaring 40 come across J Bay. Mm-hmm. I think it's an easterly they have there, and they say like how amazing it is to catch a wave at J Bay and have like a 40 knot wind just like smacking you in the face, holding you on the wave. It would just be amazing. There's something very, very very amazing about it that I can't. I still struggle to put words on how it makes me feel. It just makes me feel very good.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, it's just those big peeling point breaks. Like I'd love to surf Rincon in Ventura, California.
Sick.
Looks amazing. It's such a nice long wave, but I mean, I hear that's like the epicenter of intense localism in the universe. So if you want to kind of go there and deal with intense crowds, so which sucks. So I mean, I don't know, it takes a bit of the appeal away, I suppose. Road
Night's got a nice long break on it when it works.
Yeah, I mean, my mum lives there, so I go down there quite a bit, and I surf there on the weekend actually, but it's just one of those places where it's kind of like always promising, never delivering.
I agree with that. I've surfed there a few times, and then the first 2 times I surfed there, the waves were amazing. Yeah. And then every other time I went back there, I was like, it's going to be great. And it's just not.
I think the sand's no good there at the moment, which is funny because it's good on some of the other point breaks along the coast. Like it's amazing in Lorne at the moment. But I don't know what it is there at the moment. It's just because it's got to be a real full-on low tide, because it's got to wrap and turn that huge corner to get around, and the swell drops so much in size. But it's just not really breaking very well. Yeah, it's just not really working. And yeah, I mean, it's funny, the first time I ever surfed it was with Jeff Raglis, who's an artist and musician from the coast. He does, amazing kind of pop culture art style. Sick. And he's an amazing musician, and he's an old friend from down the coast, and we caught up for a surf, and it was really big. The surf was huge everywhere. And so we were going out. I think we were contemplating doing a little something creative together, and so we went for a board meeting and went out, and we were trying to find somewhere to surf and have a bit of a laugh and a nice time and a bit of a chat out in the water. And it was just huge. And then he said, "Oh, what about road night?" And I'd never surfed there before, and it was actually amazing. We went there, and it was just like
perfect,
like really nice 3 foot plus maybe like coming through the bay there, and it was just like these long rides, and I was like, this place is amazing. And I've never had it as good ever since that very first time. So yeah.
And then there's also the danger that we're faced at the moment on our coast with, I'm sure you're quite aware of Equinor's plans to economise the Bass Strait again with drill rig number 14 to go into the water of Port Campbell and the thing in South Australia. So it's a little bit worrying.
Yeah, it is, because if anything goes wrong, or so a lot of people would replace that if with a when something goes wrong, the impact will be catastrophic. You know, it could completely take out all of the, you know, most beautiful beaches on all of southern Australia, all across South Australia, across to the bottom tip of Western Australia, and then all the way across covering Tasmania, all of Victoria, and even around, I think they said, to like as far as Port Macquarie in New South Wales. And then
depending on the time of year as well, and how the currents. Yeah,
and then, you know, could even drift on as far as your homeland, you know, New Zealand, that direction. So I mean, it's kind of, it's pretty hideous. I mean, like there's been some stuff going around social media, and I've you know, been trying to get behind it as much as I can. It's basically saying like, you know, we really need to make some noise and, you know, try and prevent this, because, you know, it's 2019 and we really need to kind of move away from a dependency on oil. I mean, we are all totally dependent upon oil. We all drive cars and use products and stuff that come from that. So, you know, we can't, you know, deny that we do use those products, but I don't really see the need to for more and to sort of go into an area that's that has so great a risk to you know, that's like a marine park there. It's where all the you know, whale breeding grounds, and, you know, there's a whole, you know, environmental, you know, side of it is ginormous. It's huge. And yeah, it goes on, you know, in terms of like affecting all the pristine beaches that we have, you know, particularly in southern Australia.
But think of the job growth it'll bring. Think of that. The economy it'll bring to the country as well.
I'm not a politician. Yeah, think of all the jobs that it will kill when all those tourist little towns are all, you know, covered with oil, and, you know, they're hideous, and the beaches are fucked forevermore.
Maybe it can be like a tourist attraction. You can come to Victoria and clean a beach. You can all like have these little woolen jumpsuits that people have, and they sort of roll around on the sand and sort of collect as much oil as they can and get photos and selfies taken with like.
That'll be a raging success.
Oil covered albatross. They can't fly anymore, so they become land animals, and they, for so long that they evolved to like lose their wings.
That sounds wonderful.
Slick.
Yeah.
Excuse the pun.
Oh man, no, it doesn't add up, you know. It's simple as that. It's just we shouldn't need it, you know. And also, like, you know, an overseas company that has no understanding, responsibility, no vested interest in, you know, in the environment here, our way of life, you know, all those kind of things. It's just it ain't cool, you know. So
they one of their justifications, I went to their website and checked out, because I think that's one of the problems that I have at the moment, is that on the few websites, there's the surf check websites for Australia, like Swellnet, I think it was, there's like a page that you can go to where you can fill out a form to help voice your concern. And I started filling out the form, and I realised I don't feel like I know enough about the problem to like genuinely articulate my concerns in a political enough way that's going to make an impact, other than sounding like an absolute moron. Don't touch our coast because I don't want oil on it or some shit. It's like I think I wanted to learn more about the situation and the problem and the pros and the cons of it.
Yeah. To
better understand it and then better voice my concerns. And so I went to their website to find out some stats, and it's very heavily towards the pros. And naturally. And one of the justifications they used was there's already 13 rigs out there. And I thought it was a bit weak. for a reason to put a 14th is because there's already 13 out there. And I think I was a little bit shocked that they were selling it, well, one more is not going to hurt. But
it's like saying the ocean's already full with plastic, so why do we need to cut back on plastic use, you know? Because it's already full, the ocean's already got bloody nappies and bottles and stuff floating through it, so like...
The size of France.
Yeah. It's like, why... I mean, it's like... it doesn't really make any sense.
Complicates it, makes it more complex. The more wheels that you put in, the more cogs that you put into a clock, the more complicated it is. And the more complications there are for it to go wrong. Too many moving parts. And I think about that with the 14th, having another well. It's like, while there may be some economic benefits and it may improve the lives of those people that are directly related to it because of finance or in terms of a country like Australia, for example, or New Zealand that relies on, still, not heavily, but still relies on resources, like natural resources like oil and gas, while it will improve the longevity, say, of how long we have oil for here, or the petrol stocks that they keep talking about, plastics. It will improve that. I cannot go past the risks associated. Even if there's 0.0001% chance of something going wrong, the overflow, the catastrophe of the overflow and the reach of how bad it'll be.
But we're talking about the Southern Ocean. I mean, it's so intense. Like, it's huge, you know, it's like there's nothing between, you know, you get all of the
Antarctic swell.
All the Antarctic and all of the Atlantic swell as well coming across. Yeah. And, you know, it's huge. Like those, you know, the seas down there are ginormous, you know, and there's shipwrecks all along there, you know, dating back a long time because it's a treacherous stretch of ocean. And all of the currents push easterly from there. So, you know, it's like... you know, it's like, swimming upstream and then, you know, flushing a massive dump that's going to flow down to everyone downstream trying to have nice fresh water. You know, it doesn't, you wouldn't do that, you know, because it's going to land on all these amazing, pristine parts of the world. And it's just, I don't know, those pristine, beautiful stretches of the world are just so precious and they're just kind of,
they're finite.
Yeah. They're finite, exactly.
It's a finite resource that we have, is the current geology that we live upon.
Yeah.
And the more that people disrupt it and the more that people change it, the less likely it is to sustain its current state for as long as we can. Because it's the world is an ever-changing, ever-evolving thing. It's a living organism, you know what I mean? Like the Earth that we live on. Like the New Zealand coastline, for example, after the earthquakes, there's surf breaks outside of Kaikoura that are forever changed now because of the earthquakes. So the seabed's been lifted 4 meters.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's ever changing, ever evolving, but to change it forever, well, you know, indefinitely because of an oil well that we tapped into and then forced change.
There's just no recourse. That's the thing.
No.
And so it's kind of like, well, I don't know all the ins and outs. Like, I haven't gone and done a lot of research into it, but I do know that there is that potential of catastrophic disaster that would affect an area of the world that I care about greatly, and it's kind of enough. I don't really need to know that much more. I mean, it's just I would never want to put that area of the world in that potential risk. So it's kind of the end of the argument for me, really.
That's the line?
Yeah, that's the line.
That's the line, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. I'm trying to make contact with people at the moment to jump on and chat about that because I want to know more about it. Like there is pros to it that I still can't see how they can. I still can't see how they can weigh in favour of a pro over the amount of cons that they have, and just if something goes wrong, that's it. We're fucked.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like no more surfing.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like, you know, it's just, you don't go to a volatile part of the world where it's like it's really intense. Like, the ocean there is volatile. It's massive. There's a lot going on. And, you could have the most incredible state-of-the-art engineering, but I don't know.
There's still a risk.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. I'm sure there's... to be honest with you, I don't really know in depth of what the world resource stocks are like in terms of like resource mining, but I just don't think we need to do it. I think there's plenty of people out there that are making amazing inroads in how we harness energy, different types of energy, and how we store it.
I totally agree, and that's something that does shit me a little bit about Australia. Is like, our economy is so reliant upon primary industry. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, and everyone, there was, the global financial crisis, or the crash, as they say in the UK, that happened where, countries around the world were affected by economic, blip, downturn. And Australia survived that fairly well because we could rely upon this, this resources we just keep tapping into. We've got plenty of land for farming and all this kind of stuff. So that's all great. But the mining and that kind of thing, it's, there's a lot of wealth behind that and a lot of power, and it links with the economy and political lobbying and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, you look at other countries around the world that don't have a lot of primary resources, that don't have a lot of land for farming, and they're far more innovative.
Yep.
I mean, New Zealand is incredibly innovative. I think New Zealand, when are you guys going to invade? Can you just do it properly? Jacinta Ardern, we want her. The latest Lamb ad, hinted at it. Let's just do it. Just invade properly. We'll welcome you guys.
We're trying. We're just too chill. It's like, you just get so distracted by the roses on the side of the road. Just want to check those out. The road sort of just crumbles away and just sort of, I agree with you about New Zealand, but I also disagree. There's a lot of 1/3 of the world's, at one stage, 1/3 of the world's dairy came out of New Zealand, and with such massive amounts of the country can only take so much pressure, and there's a lot of downfall that's because the price of milk at that time was so high. A lot of farms across New Zealand were converting from, say, sheep, beef, whatever kind of farms, converting to dairy, spending millions of dollars converting the farms and taking years to do it, so losing income, knocking down trees, completely changing the land, tapping into water reserves, and then bankrolling their farm on the hope that the economy was going to keep sustaining it, or that the world was going to keep sustaining the milk at that price. And now New Zealand's in a dire state at the moment, where the milk price has dropped quite heavily, and there's waterways in New Zealand now. There's waterways that I grew up around swimming in that you can't go swimming in anymore because of the bacterial level on the water.
Yeah, right.
Because of bacterial infection, like from Didymo, and there's no life. Like, you look in the riverways where I grew up, and there used to be like little reefs, and there'd be like little fish floating around, not floating but swimming around. Yeah. Eels. And now you go to those riverways and there's just nothing but rock and clear water. But if you look at a rock or a stone in the water and lift it up, there's all this little brown fungus and mold and stuff all over it, and it's toxic.
What's that from? All the
it's from a few different things, but they say it's from the runoff. So it's from the urea and the fertilizer from the land that's being converted from through dairy, and then tapping into the water as well, because the dairy obviously takes a lot of water. There's a lot of draws a lot of water, and again, water is a finite resource. Yeah, there's only so much of it, and there's only so much of it, like, per minute that's flowing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like an infinite supply. So I think anything made in mass is not a good thing, and I don't know. There's the suicide rate's gone up in New Zealand because of it, because of the farming, and they say there's correlations between that. The weather patterns have changed where I grew up. There's a massive flow-on effect that's happened because of the land has just changed and the economy, and there's a lot more pressure. And I don't know. It's devastating to go back to New Zealand and just see like these amazing farms that were venison farms or sheep farms, and people that lived the way they did for so long, farming them. Yeah. And just being pressured into trying to make money out of them and out of the dairy and how much damage it's doing to.
So this is obviously fairly personal for you because you're from a farming family. Yeah. I mean, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, but it's not just because I hope it's not, but I'm not sure, to be honest with you, whether it is or it isn't. But just going back and just because I don't go back to New Zealand every year, I don't go back all the time, but just seeing the dramatic changes every time that I go back to what's happening to the land and the psychology of the people living there and being upset about it. And because some of the farms aren't owned by people in New Zealand now, they're like bought out by international.
Yeah, that's a huge issue, I think.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's happening in Australia big time.
It is. It is exactly the same thing's happening here. You know.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I have when I travelled through Europe, it was amazing to go through to marketplaces and all the food was seasonal and locally sourced. And I don't think people should be able to buy Mexican corn from a supermarket or, you know.
Well, I just learned the other day that like any garlic that you buy that's not Australian is like heavily sprayed with chemicals. And so it's really it's bad for you to eat, really. Ingesting all these chemicals.
I agree.
Well, my big pet peeve, like my kind of main, motivating cause or whatever is really trying to reduce the amount of plastic. I just think the plastic is just going to kill us all in the end. It's just like, it's absolutely everywhere. It's like this massive problem that we really need to figure out a solution to. And that ties into the whole petrochemical thing as well, because, plastics is a byproduct of petrochemicals. So, like my mum went to Bologna to the book fair that's in Bologna every year. And she went shopping and, went to all these, amazing groceries and delis and stuff in the city of Bologna. And she said that there was no plastic. There's no like people went there with their own bag or their own basket or shopping trolley or whatever, and they loaded up goods in there. And then she said even when she went to like the fishmonger to buy some fish, they wrapped the fish in wax paper and then in newspaper. So even like, stinky meat things that, are always wrapped in plastic 20 times over, they didn't even do that. And she just said it just made such a difference to the feel of the city. There wasn't, plastic litter everywhere. And, I mean, this is, it's obviously an isolated, glorified example of what I'm talking about, but it's just like there are so many ways of doing things that people have become inherently lazy. They're just used to going and buying everything prepackaged, and it's just become the norm so much that people don't think about it.
Well, they think that we're reliant upon it when we're not.
No, it's just like they made it this mass industry that, it's cheap to buy everything. From, I don't know, you take away a coffee cup lid to, Glad wrap to like one of the worst things is, like the pharmaceutical cosmetics industry is just like there's so much plastic there. I mean, that's a tricky one to overcome. But one thing that really shits me is you go to like a major hardware store, like you go to Bunnings or something, and everything is wrapped in plastic, and sometimes then wrapped in plastic again. You just want to
double sealed security seals.
You just want to buy 25 nails, and it's just like the amount of plastic for just getting like why can't you just go and buy just a handful of nails and get them weighed or loose?
There was, I remember when I was growing up, there was like a farming hardware store, and they had like tubs of loose stuff.
Yeah,
you used to go, I think it was weighed. You used to weigh it.
Yeah,
you pay per weight.
Why not?
I don't get why you can't.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's going to be a really tough one to turn that ship around.
But I think it's going to be harder for the corporations to turn around than it is for the individuals. I think people adapt a lot easier than what corporations give them credit for. Like the whole supermarket thing that happened recently in Australia with the the no more plastic bags that they had.
What a disaster that was.
Oh, when we go to the supermarket now, sometimes we don't take a bag and we just buy what we carry. Sometimes we overshop and we're like, oh God, we should have bought a bag. But we just like stuff in pockets or like take a jumper off and like wrap stuff in that. But people are fine. People are fine. People are doing fine. People are doing just fine. You know, like a lot more people are taking, especially when we're noticing in Port Melbourne where people just take their own bags to the supermarket now, and it's really not an issue. People aren't reliant on as much plastic as what corporations think that we are.
Yeah, I think the plastic bags thing was just one element that just sort of like it was to start the conversation, because, you know, bags kind of get chucked and blow around, and you know that's what you see. But like it's just all the packaging and stuff. And then when the supermarkets do stuff like they'll take, you know, like a sweet potato and then put it on a plastic tray and then wrap it in plastic. It's like, I'm so glad that's so fresh, you know. It's a bloody sweet potato. Why does it need to be in there? It's ridiculous.
It's great to me. In that supermarket I'm talking about, you can buy little cups, like the coffee cup here, filled with half a carrot that's been sliced up for your convenience, and then the plastic lid.
Yeah.
And it's like sold at $10 a kilo.
Yeah.
It's like they've got loose carrots right beside it, and like because someone doesn't want a whole carrot, they want half a carrot sliced for them.
Yeah, you can buy like sliced apple or orange.
There's
wrapped in plastic.
There's a supermarket in New Zealand at the moment, big supermarket chain that's a smaller, you know, in terms of the supermarket chains, it's a smaller one, and they stopped single plastic wrapping of vegetables, and they've noticed a 300% increase in the profit of some of their vegetables.
This is what I was talking about with New Zealand. There's a few good things going on there.
There's some brains.
Yeah,
there is some brains there.
Some progressive shit happening, you know, and that's awesome, you know. I mean, but it all comes down to it's got to be like a law, or there's got to be like a tax or a penalty or something for you know, stuff that's heavily packaged and wrapped. So then that will force those corporations to think alternatively, and then there needs to be you know, like recycling is one element which needs to be figured out at the moment, but it's not the answer. Like you need to actually have an alternative.
I agree.
Yeah.
Recycling doesn't solve anything. It shifts the problem to a different area.
Yeah.
And while there is good things going on with recycling, plastic is limited to what you can recycle with it. You know, I mean, it's not as though you can turn absolutely everything that's plastic into the same kind of product.
Yeah.
Because there's different types of plastics.
Well, you never used to be able to recycle the soft plastics, but then I think it was Coles, like started saying that they're collecting the soft plastics at these collection points at the supermarkets, which I thought, you know, at first you think, oh, that's pretty decent considering you guys produce so much of it. But then, so you can take your plastic waste in there and drop it off, but where do they actually do anything with it?
What do they do with it?
Yeah. It's like a PR move, and then they just go and bury it in a hole somewhere. It's like, oh, we're recycling. So
there's a lot of land out there, man.
Yeah, that's right.
It goes pretty deep.
Yeah.
Let's keep chucking it in. It will break down 2 million years later.
Just keep sweeping it under the carpet.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of carpet.
Yeah.
A lot of room. There's only like 8 billion people on the planet. There's plenty of room to grow yet.
Yeah.
Just keep on sweeping, man.
Yep.
Keep pushing out the ocean. Big ocean.
I saw this thing the other day online that was like a bit of litter washed up on some beach somewhere, and it was a yogurt cup from the 1976 Olympics in Canada, and it was like exactly the same. So it was like, what is that, 40 years or something?
And some, more than 50?
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's like then that's just like, wow, that's pretty significant. So think about how many times, you know, you would have eaten from a plastic yogurt cup, like, I don't know, hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you know, dispose of things appropriately. But you know, sometimes when the garbage truck comes and the wheelie bin's getting lifted up and it ends up dropping on the road and it got washed into the waterways, and then, you know, 40 years time, some archaeologist going to find it, you know, washed up, or, you know, dissecting some animal that's died from it being in its guts, you know. Anyway, I'm getting a bit morbid here. We've made the point.
Made the point, yeah. I don't know really where to go from there. To be honest, I think
save the planet, man.
Save the planet. Yeah. Thank you so much for. We should probably wrap it up. It's been like 2.5 hours.
Has it? Holy dooly. Sorry, everyone.
That's all right.
Hope you're still there.
We've got one listener left.
Yeah.
It's the computer. Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thanks for
taking
having
the time. It's been really sick catching up with you and meeting you finally as a person. It's been really cool.
Yeah, likewise. It. No, thanks. I think this podcast is awesome. I'm really feel very honoured to be invited along. So thank you very much.
Is there anything that you want to put out there in the world?
Damn, I should have prepared
written something down.
Something profound to end with. Not so much. Other than I'm just I'm just continuing to live the creative life and stay true to my creative urges of storytelling, and I would urge anyone else to do the same.
That's a beautiful thing, man. It's about as profound as you get. And where can people check you out if they want to look up?
Well, let's see. I've got a website which is in chronic need of an update, but it's leobaker.net. Otherwise, the old social medias, Instagram, leo.baker, and you can check those out.
Actually, totally go to the Instagram. There's some really cool projects that you're doing.
Speaking of Instagram, you need to go on Instagram, man. This guy's on Instagram, people, and he's a photographer. He's a visual person, and he's not on the current visual medium.
No, I'm on Twitter, the stupidest one.
Yeah, ditch that shit. Get on Instagram, man.
Yeah, I know. I keep debating with myself whether or not I should get Instagram.
Just do it. It's not as demanding as Twitter. It's not a beast you got to keep giving
demanding.
Attention. Yeah, it demands your attention. Instagram's not like that. It's not as bad anyway.
I'll keep pondering it, and one day I'll build up enough material again. I'll just like this mass influx and like I have like 1,000 posts in like 20 minutes of like shit, and people are like, who the fuck is this guy? Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It stays there. It doesn't disappear.
That's the thing that kind of frightens me.
It's not disposable.
I kind of like stuff that breaks down and disappears. I've had like this thing for a long time where I wanted to do this art exhibition of stories. And so you write the story out. I don't know if I should say this on air. Anyway, it's not forever is kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like the art display is like, once you see it, you never see it again, and no one else will ever see it as well.
There is the technology for this.
And so I've had this like dream of doing this.
You can actually do that on social media these days.
Really?
Yeah, there's like disposable
posts.
Yeah. They're called stories. You post them, and they're gone within 24 hours. So you can. A lot of people use them for like day-to-day things that they're doing.
Because the internet. That's the thing with the internet. It just doesn't disappear.
Oh yeah,
it's
we don't ask those questions of the internet.
It's an impossible question. Where does it go?
It gets stockpiled somewhere for someone to use against you.
Yeah. In a social media court of law.
Yeah.
Sick, dude. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks for having me.
It's all good. We should do this again sometime.
Love to. Cheers.
Peace. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. Thank you to Leo Baker, and thank you to Horizon Studios for hosting us. Please subscribe. If you like this, there's heaps more guests coming up that I'm really excited about to chat to. Check you guys soon. Peace.